Hello and welcome to another Mr. Rolling In podcast. My name is usual as Jacob Staten, and as usual, I'm joined by JJ Armstrong. JJ, how are you?
I am okay, thank you, Jacob. It is now the 12th of February. It felt like January lasted about 5 years, and now it's just the 12th of February, like that. And my research earlier, I looked back on the results, and guess what, Jacob? Forest haven't won a game this year. What?
Shocked.
What? So, I'm doing okay personally, despite that slight grievance. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay, mate. Thank you. Probably a little bit worse than you because I actually went to the match on Saturday. I didn't have to face the icy tundra of North Leeds or South Bradford.
Cost of living crisis, Jacob.
Cost of living crisis. He lost 21 quid on a match ticket. Bless you. So we're going to kick off by talking extremely briefly about Bristol and the Cup. JJ's told me I have about 19 seconds on this. Otherwise, he's not a friend ever again. It wasn't on TV. Thank Christ. Seemed like a bog standard, maybe below average performance. We don't change the way we play, no matter who we're playing. So it's not a surprise. The only surprise from that game was he did, for the first time, play a different formation from the 4-2-3-1, which saw, was it 3-4-1-2, something like that? Sorry, he's counting me down. Anyway, we're in the next round of the FA Cup to play Man United at home, and that's always special, so there is that to talk about. Now, on to Newcastle United at home on Saturday, the 10th of February, 5:30 kickoff. From team news, only 3 of the 11 from Bristol survive, and that was Moussa Niakhaté, Morgan Gibbs-White, and Anthony Elanga. We changed back to the 4-2-3-1. JJ, are you surprised by the change back?
No. I think it's. I think the change for the Bristol game was out of necessity. I think because we needed to rest a few players, which obviously didn't end up quite happening given extra time. But I think given the fast pace games coming at us in a quick few weeks, I think it's important to rest a few people. So I think that was more born out of necessity than any tactical influence. And I'm not surprised at all to see what appears to be his favoured tactic thus far in his managerial career at Forest return. So it made sense to me. I didn't foresee that you'd go stick with the back three. So wasn't surprised whatsoever.
I think I'm the other side of the coin. I in my head, I think of Nuno. I think of the back three. So I thought the Bristol game would be the first of the start of that era type thing. So I was a bit surprised we went back to it. I was a bit disappointed for Andrew Omobamidele, who I think's been pretty good, if not fantastic, since he's got into the team. I had a feeling he might have gone for Moussa Niakhaté at left back if he was going back to a back four. Because if he's going to play Tavares instead, then what's the point? But yeah.
I just want to touch on it and just say I think Omobamidele has done nothing wrong, so he can feel slightly aggrieved to be dropped or rested, depending on how you want to look at it. But I think if you've got the option of Moussa Niakhaté, who I do think is a great player, I think the only reason I would have kept Omobamidele is because he hasn't done anything wrong, and he was starting to build up a great relationship with Murillo. Yep. So we've seen a lot of centre-back pairings. I think Niakhaté Murillo worked well prior to AFCON, so I can see why we've returned to that. However, I think it is harsh on Omobamidele, who did nothing wrong and was starting to strike a good partnership. But I guess when you've got a potential Rory Delap-esque throw into the box, it's another weapon, really. So you can sort of see why he could be picked.
Yeah, and that's interesting you raised that point, because there was a lot of that, particularly in the second half of the missile throw-in, which I think we've spoken about before. But I still find absolutely mind-bending that he can do with no run-up, literally no run-up, and how far he throws it. But he did do it that often that there were people around us starting to say, have we ever scored from one of these? And off the top of my head, I don't think we have.
I'm sure we have. Was it not a game where it caused chaos and they scored from it? I mean, not like direct connection with it. I'm sure it's been in the box. There's been a bit of a scramble and we've scored from that. But I might be wrong. I've certainly seen a few games where that has caused problems for the opposition.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never anti it. It's getting the ball into the box, isn't it? It's it's a good way of getting the ball where it needs to be, isn't it? So, regardless of the outcome, at least you could drop down and that kind of thing. JJ, I believe you have a word from our sponsors.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you. We're going to talk today about our sponsor Football Prizes and this brilliant prize, which is a TAIWO Awoniyi signed and framed shirt. Beautiful. You can enter at www.footballprizes.co.uk. For those listening, you can't see it on screen, so head to that website and check it out because it is a wonderful prize and it ends on Thursday the 15th of February. But make sure you follow them on social media as they've got plenty of forest competitions to enter. So enter now at footballprizes.co.uk. Back to you, boys.
So yeah, onto the game. So game starts. There's lots of possession for Newcastle. I think as anyone would expect, given the way they play and the way we play. I think they actually had a bit of a change in formation. It very much looked to me like they had a back five with Trippier moving from right wing back into centre midfield. You know how Man City do with whoever's playing at right back that week. It seemed to really work for them, in my opinion, because I don't know, they were extremely solid at the back, despite conceding 2 goals. They were extremely solid, huge. Botman, Shah, Dan Burn, all huge, like mountainous men. So yeah, it was very tough game for TAIWO, I think. But yeah, lots of possession. We did have a lovely counter attack of Anthony Elanga getting around the back of Dan Burn, because Dan Burn is 6 foot. I'm gonna guess 6, 7, maybe. And Anthony Elanga is lightning quick. So there was a ball down the line. I think it was from Nuno Dominguez, and it was sensational. And in my opinion, I think Elanga should have scored. He hits it straight at Dubravka, who did close him down pretty quickly, which I suppose was good. But yeah, I think we should have scored there. And then all of a sudden, JJ,
they score from a set piece, which is words I feel like I've said most weeks now. Yep. Another set piece goal conceded.
What kind of goal was it, JJ?
I mean, in terms of what, it was a great goal, if that's what you want me to say, but it was an avoidable goal, which I've cottoned on to way too late there and tried to style it out. Yes, every week we say avoidable goals, and I think this is just another example of that. Don't get me wrong, fantastic routine, and I think if they do that on the training pitch, they'll think this will never come off, lads, will it? Because they'll certainly look behind the shoulders and check that there's not a man hanging about. But it worked perfectly, and it was a great finish, well-worked routine. I think we're still slightly naive in this moment, but another set-piece goal conceded, and not good.
Whilst I think it probably falls into the category of an avoidable goal and we're a bit naive, I would like to say it was an extremely well-executed goal. Bruno Guimaraes, he makes a great run into the box. The ball in from Trippier was amazing. The finish from Bruno Guimaraes, I think, has gone a bit under the radar. Like an outside of the right foot volley into the back of the far post it's a great finish. And I was sat in Peter Taylor, kind of went, oh, I'd like us to be a bit cleverer there, but also that is what they're trying to do, isn't it? They're trying to catch us out.
Yeah, well worked. I think sometimes you can just put it down to a good goal. Would like to see us do a bit better, but I just think maybe just fair play.
Yeah. And then after their goal goes in, business starts to pick up a bit for us, doesn't it, JJ? We start to get a few more counter attacks in, a bit more of the ball, and then a sensational,
exquisite
through ball from Morgan Gibbs-White.
Exquisite.
And a redeeming finish for Anthony Elanga, who doesn't take a touch this time. He puts it straight past Martin Dubravka, and it's game on. It was very similar to the first chance Elanga had, and nice to see him not let that play on his mind and get it in the back of the net.
The warning signs were certainly there from the first one, and they just did not wake up to it. And I think everyone before the game targeted Dan Burn as a problem against Elanga. I'm sure every Newcastle fan, every Forest fan, every football fan would say, following what happened on Boxing Day, following the pace that Elanga has got, playing Dan Burn against Elanga, that's something that Forest can capitalise on. And obviously the first chance was missed, but he capitalised on it the second time due to what was the ball, Jacob?
Exquisite.
Exquisite ball from Gibbs-White. And like I say, good composure. Great that the first chance didn't get in his head. And that showed where we could really hurt Newcastle. And at that time, I think they were just about saying on the TV that Newcastle had the larger amount of possession, which is to be, that's completely fine considering if we can counter them like that, then you'll swallow that possession.
Yeah.
Because in open play, I think we were doing well, and obviously they scored from a set piece, so they weren't doing too much with that possession. So great finish, great ball, and that is an exciting goal to watch live, I assume, Jacob. I'm sure the crowd loved that one.
Yeah, absolutely. It was nice with there's kind of like because he shot from so far out, there's like a nice delay of, yes, it's in the back of the net type thing. So that was really nice. And then we give them a free kick wide on the right, attacking Trent end goal in front of Brian Clough's stand. And what happens, JJ?
We concede another set piece goal, Jacob, and again avoidable.
This one is firmly in the category of avoidable, despite the fact it was a smart finish from Fabian Schär.
Do you think there's a potential here that it was a silly foul by Ryan Yates that caused this? Or are you in the camp of they still shouldn't score from this regardless?
It was, I wouldn't say silly. I'd probably say it was a tactical foul gone wrong by Ryan Yates. But if you don't want Ryan Yates to make tactical fouls, which he does extremely well throughout the game in other areas of the pitch, which help us break up play and calm things down and win ourselves free kicks go further forward, then what is Ryan Yates in the team to do? You have to take the rough with the smooth, mate.
There's definitely been a bit of Yating, which is Ryan Yates hating, which we've been there before, Jacob, but online I'm seeing a lot of criticism go towards Ryan Yates, and there always has to be a scapegoat. For what it's worth, I do think he is a great inclusion in this squad and provides a lot for us. A lot of the naughty stuff that you sort of need, a bit of bite in the team. And I don't think he had a great game against Bournemouth, but other times he's popped up and had a fantastic game. So certainly still has a place in the squad for me. I'm not too sure why it's drastically gone against him recently online, but hey ho, it's the way of the world, isn't it? I think players are better when they're not in the squad, and I think Sangare is currently one of them.
Yeah, I didn't really think he did that much wrong against Bournemouth. I certainly don't think he played badly against Newcastle. I think he's probably guilty of doing the things that are hard to put a finger on in terms of saying he does it well. I think we're a much worse team without him. I was disappointed when he didn't start against Arsenal. I find myself being disappointed when he's taken off because to me, he's someone who can win a header in the last minute, who can put a foot in to a tackle at the last minute, or put a block or puts his body on the line, that kind of thing. So I think he's the kind of player that can influence a whole game.
Do you think influence a whole game, or perhaps from what you said there, bring on when we're trying to secure a lead and do a bit of the battling?
No, I think influence the whole game. I think he's one of the starters for me. It's him and somebody else in midfield, and on that point, I think Dominguez was absolutely fantastic in this game.
Yeah, I think it's worth shouting out Dominguez at this point because I messaged you saying it feels like there's about 10 Dominguezes on the pitch. He was everywhere. His confidence to try and get to the ball or want to receive the ball in any position. He's a fantastic player. We saw it early on. He had a bit of a lull. Then he was played potentially out of position, but I think we saw the best of Dominguez against Newcastle. He's a really hungry, powerful, combative player. So I thought he was excellent. And I thought he was excellent against Bournemouth as well. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens when Sangare's back. Is it potentially Sangare Dominguez start in midfield, or will Yates retain his place? So there's certainly some interesting things to come for this midfield. Obviously, we lost Mangala, who was excellent, but I think Yates and Dominguez hasn't quite replicated what I thought Mangala added to the midfield. But it'll be interesting to see what happens once Sangare comes back.
Yeah, I think it'll be Sangare and Dominguez, as much, despite what I just said about Yates. That's my opinion, but I think it'll be Sangare and Dominguez. I think we've got a big second half of the season to come from Sangare. He's coming on a high, isn't he? Ivory Coast have just won the Africa Cup of Nations.
A Ivory Coast, if you will. This is it just writes itself, Jacob. It's rubbish. It's rubbish.
Writes itself, mate. Yeah, I think he's got a big second half of the season to come.
Let's hope so, to live up to the potential and the excitement that he generated. I think we were starting to see it. Like you say, confidence should be in full swing. So fingers crossed for a better second half of the season, as you've just mentioned.
Absolutely. And speaking of second half, speaking of the first half coming to an end, Callum Hudson-Odoi makes it 2-2 in it was shaping to be a Callum Hudson-Odoi trademark, wasn't it? Where he cuts in from the left and shapes it into the far corner, but it took a wicked deflection, and I can't remember who it came off. JJ, who's going to help me?
Miley, possibly.
Oh, yeah, sorry, it was Lewis Miley. Yeah, sorry, that's right. Yeah, and it literally just goes in the opposite corner in which he wanted it to. Yeah, I mean, I think we were good value for it. We were very good after their first goal, and I think we definitely deserve to be level at halftime.
Absolutely deserve to be level at halftime. If anything, I'd say we had the chances of the game, given that both their goals were from set pieces.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, take a breath. Bloody hell, 2-2 at half time. That's not really how I foresaw the game going. And I think it's worth talking about Hudson-Odoi in general, because I think he had a very good game. And I think the Bournemouth goal, whether that has been sparked some confidence in him, I don't know. But he looked like he was brave enough to take on his man in this game. Whereas previously he would certainly pass back or look a bit hesitant to take his man on. But I think he displayed some great feet and some great skill to beat his man in this game. So potentially we're starting to see a bit of a resurgence of Hudson-Odoi. Potentially we're seeing his confidence start to come in, and that's 2 goals in 2 games now. Both similar goals. He scored one earlier in the season. I can't remember who it was against, but that was also quite similar to the 2 he scored in the last 2 games. So obviously lucky with the deflection, but good work to get there. You take the shot, these things can happen. So be brave, take the shot, and it could end up in a goal, be it you place it bottom corner, be it the keeper spills it, or be it deflection. As they say, Jacob, they all count.
Well, you don't win a ticket if you don't win the prize if you don't buy a ticket, do you, JJ?
Yes, speaking of which, footballprizes.co.uk, TAIWO on you, sign a custom frame shirt. That wasn't pre-planned, but that's why we're good at what we do, Jacob. Yeah, half time, I think it was just one of those where I just didn't know what happened. It was such a roller coaster of emotion. It was frustration, but we're playing quite well. But frustration, but that was my emotions during that. So I thought if anyone was going to go on and win it in the second half, it would be Forest. And we came out, Jacob, and from where I was sat, which wasn't at the ground, at home, they looked brilliant. They started really, really positively.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there were 2 penalty claims waved away before the Newcastle goal, which we'll talk about in a second. There was and I must admit, I didn't see this live. I don't know how I didn't see it live, but there was an Anthony Gordon push on Anthony Elanga and Anthony on Anthony Crime. What were your thoughts on that, JJ?
This is the first I'm hearing about it, so clearly I didn't see it either.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. It was on the... Yeah, okay. All right. Well,
I'm not
if
calling you a liar.
If anybody did see that, can you please comment and let us know? Because I was there, and the replays are rubbish if you sit in Peter Taylor. So I didn't see any of that. And I don't even think I was in the ground, so I didn't have any knowledge of when VAR was in use. And then the one on TAIWO Wonyi. Now, before I talk about my opinion on this, I would like to say that I think TAIWO Wonyi completely and utterly balls that up. He should never have got to the point where he was able to be dropped by the keeper. It should have been nestling in the back of the net. But yeah, so he goes through, he bundles himself around, and in my opinion, Martin Dubravka drops him. I don't think there's any 2 ways in which about it. It's a stonewall penalty for me, and it's not given. He gives a goal kick. And and VAR agree, JJ.
Yeah, this has been the screensaver of my mind for the last few days because I find it on repeat, trying to sort of debate the pros and cons of each area. And I think I've watched it 5 times and thought that's never a penalty, and watched it 5 times and thought Stonewaller. So I can see why it's divided opinion. My end outcome is penalty. I agree with you. I think TAIWO should have pulled the trigger, and a lot sooner. It shouldn't have ever got to that. The whole original debate for me was, will he actually get to the ball or is it running out? And I think the speculation is, I think the ball's going out of play, but TAIWO is quite quick, so you never quite know. And if it's up in the air like that, then maybe that means that it is an opportunity for him to get there. So therefore, him getting taken out is a denial of a goal scoring opportunity. So therefore, it should be a penalty. I think the thing that swayed it for me is thinking back to Dean Henderson against Brentford and that decision going against us. I think back to the decision that Anthony Taylor himself gave to give Diogo Jota a penalty. And I just think, let's have some consistency here. I also think that if you're a Forest fan, it's a penalty. If you're a Newcastle fan, half of them will say it's not a penalty, half of them say it will be. If the referee gives it, that doesn't get overturned to say it's not a penalty. If the referee doesn't give it, apparently it's not going to get overturned to say it is a penalty. So it's a horrible situation. I think Anthony Taylor had an absolute shocker. I see you waiting to jump in, Jacob, so I'll pass it back to you. But there's another decision that I want to talk about that Anthony Taylor got frustratingly wrong after this, but I'll let you say your piece.
Yeah, cheers, mate. For me, I think the fact that the ball might be going out of play before TAIWO can get to it is completely and utterly irrelevant. If the keeper, if any other player on the pitch, no matter where the ball is, kicks another player over, trips another player up, it's a foul, isn't it? If the ball's in the Forest box and Newcastle are about, sorry, if Forest got the ball in the Newcastle box, we're about to take a shot, but somebody gets legged up, let's say Murillo legs up whoever's up front for them, Isak. Was it Isak? Yeah, if he legs him
he's
up,
injured. Wilson.
If he legs Callum Wilson up, the referee will blow for a free kick. What's it got to do with where the ball is?
I can't help. I just hate screaming bias, and I think we're in danger of, like, every time this happens, which is so frequent now, it's killing football a little bit. But every time a decision goes against Forest, like, I hope we don't write another letter to the PGMOL, and it just feels like it's constantly happening. I don't want to scream bias, but just can't help the feeling if that person played for a Man United or if it was an Erling Haaland, for example, that penalty is given, I think. I just can't help but feel, for whatever reason, there's some degree of bias, because if that penalty can be given by the same referee with less contact for Jota, why don't we get it?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, on the letter writing thing, I think thankfully we didn't set the precedence for that. It was Liverpool and Arsenal, wasn't it, set the precedence for that. I would like to say that I don't actually mind us doing that, because what other way have we got to say we're not happy with the refereeing standards? They don't do anything to them, do they? They have a week off and then they get to come back and do whatever they want again. Everybody's known for a long time that Anthony Taylor is a complete and utter narcissist. Like, he's only bothered about it being about. There was literally a chant of going around the stadium like, "It's all about you. It's all about you, Anthony Taylor. It's all about you." Like, everybody knows he's only bothered about being the center of attention. You know what I mean? It's very hard when these decisions happen, because because VAR is meant to rule this kind of thing out, and you touched on it, of going, if the referee give that, it's not going to get overturned. The referee doesn't give it, so VAR don't feel like they can get in his way because it's not a clear and obvious error.
Yeah, they're protecting their mates, aren't they? That's what it is.
Yeah, and a referee, and I think we're currently in this kind of catch-22 of referees are not giving decisions because they're used to VAR, but picking up their poop, shall we say, scooping up their poop, and then VAR are kind of going, "Oh, sugar, we've got a bit of heat on us right now. Let's not rock the boat so much and give controversial decisions." And it's just, all it's happening is everybody's pointing at each other to say you haven't done something, and the only one that's losing out is the club and the fans, isn't it?
And with such fine margins in terms of points, we've got potential point deduction looming over, looking a bit tight at the bottom. Who knows what's going to happen? If a point is, if it's just a point that keeps us up or sends us down, either side of that argument can feel aggrieved because there will be VAR decisions that could have and should have gone our way that potentially influence and change the results and amount of points gained. So it is changing the game in a way that feels unfair, I think.
Yeah.
I think he got a lot wrong for both sides. There was a Trippier handball that was just outside the box, but Trippier handballed it. It was a Newcastle goal kick. And to balance it up, there was a clear foul by Origi and nothing was given. And it just felt like the referees didn't know what a foul was. On the letter right into the PGMOL, they've not received any. Apparently, Nuno Tavares was in charge of putting it in his local post box, but put it in the nearest bin instead because he got it so far wide. So, thankfully,
I figured to say his dog ate it.
Or his dog ate it. That's a better one. Bloody hell!
I was waiting for that.
Damn it! That's a better one than what I was going for. Let's. This is unplanned, so this could go anywhere. Try and keep sort of the dog into a minimum. But what were your thoughts on Nuno Tavares? Because I've seen some people say, "What a great performance! One of the best players." He retained his spot in squad for me, and I've seen some people say he is absolutely tragic. What are your thoughts?
I thought it's probably his best game for Forest. That's not to say that I don't want him on the bench next week, though. If that makes sense, it was his best game for Forest, but that's a very low standard of rating it. That kind of thing. It's he had that chance where he should have scored or at least put it on target, but then again, he is a left back, right? There's a reason he's not playing up front. He puts a decent ball in. His defending wasn't too bad this game. But yeah, I just think if Niakhate's fit, and I think you touched on it earlier again about Omobamidele probably needing a rest because he has played a lot of football since that first Blackpool game. I think he's probably played every minute of every game, hasn't he? So if they're all fit, I think I'd probably have Niakhate at left back and get Omobamidele back in. But yeah, he did, by no means was he bad against Newcastle. I just he's still just not the left back for me.
I thought some of the runs he did were exceptional. I thought the vision to make those runs were brilliant and gifted as another option. His end product is shocking. And you say there he puts a good ball in.
Decent ball.
It's the shots for me. He did it in the cup. I think he did it against Bournemouth. He did it again in this game where he just can't help himself. Yeah. He just can't help himself. And I said to Jacob afterwards, if he tried to shoot in his arm, he'd put it in his toe. He's just so far wide of the mark. You think we're better suited to create chances by not doing that. And I know I said earlier, Callum Hudson-Odoi, you have a go, it could result in a goal. Whether you place it, spills off the keeper, or takes a deflection. But from what I've seen of him, I just think let's stop trying because it's wasted momentum, unfortunately. And there's far better decisions, and I think his decision making could be improved. I don't think he's a left back for us. I think Ola Aina slots straight back in.
Good shout.
Got a lot of abuse online. I don't know what he did in the final. I didn't watch it, but there's certain people putting curses on him. We've already got enough problems, so bloody undo that, please.
I know he missed a penalty in the semi-final, didn't he? But they still won. So
right. Well, I don't know what happened in the final, but I saw a lot of Forest fans say we've already got enough problems. Stop cursing us. But I think it sounds like he had a good tournament from the little I've sort of watched of it. So I would put him straight back in. I thought he was already our sort of best choice left back. So interested to see him back in the fold and interested to see if he gets a start straight away or whether Nuno perseveres with Nuno.
I think there certainly has to be something said for the Portuguese connection. Maybe Nuno feels that he, having somebody out there who can speak first language with. He sits next to Murillo, who's obviously Brazilian, speaks Portuguese. That kind of thing maybe helps the partnership. And like I say, it was his, in my opinion, it was his best game for Forest. So if he carries on that trajectory, fine, why not? But I think Ionia goes straight back in, doesn't he?
Hopefully, for the health and safety of Forest fans, it's a better trajectory than his shots. Anyway, from there, Jacob, what happens?
There was one thing we did miss, and only briefly because I haven't seen the replay, but I presume it was very offside. TAIWO did have a disallowed goal. It was an extremely smart finish. Extremely smart finish. But I think even to the naked eye, as he went through, it did look offside to me. JJ, was it?
Didn't celebrate because I just knew it was getting flagged. But a fantastic finish. Really well placed. More of that, please. And I thought, at that point, TAIWO was becoming a threat. We'll talk about it after what happened and became their winner. But TAIWO got taken off. And I thought at this point of the game, he was starting to, obviously, he had the penalty decision. He had the offside. I thought things are starting to happen here. He's got a goal in this lad. But anyway, talk about their winner, and then we'll go on to discuss the fact he was replaced.
Yeah, so they score their winner. It was about the 66th minute, I think. It was a clever move and a lovely finish from Bruno Guimaraes. I don't think there's much that Celts could have done about the shot. It's one of them ones on the edge of the D where the goal is at its biggest for a goalkeeper. I seem to remember Jordan Smith conceded a lot from that range because he was quite short. But yeah, I don't think there was much Matt Celts could have done about the goal. For me, there was a clear foul on Nico Dominguez in the build-up. He gets bundled over, stops him from chasing, from closing down either one or the two before he takes the shot. But it's not given. I don't know if it was checked or anything, JJ, because nothing comes up in the stadium. But it was certainly one for me that, had they looked at it and not given it, I wouldn't have been surprised. But I'm surprised it wasn't looked at all. If you're going to tell me it wasn't looked at all,
completely glossed over. Wasn't even referred to in the replay, from what I remember. But this is where I think there should be a bit of consistency. Someone with a better memory than me will be able to tell me if I'm right or wrong here. But I seem to recall a goal being disallowed last season where Mangala got speared by, I believe it was Antonio. I might be wrong, but
that rings a bell.
He blocked his path, and VAR intervened. Wasn't a goal.
Was it West Ham at home? Our first win?
I think so, but
it's got to be.
I can't quite remember. Someone with a better memory can sort of tell us, but I seem to remember it involved Antonio blocking Mangala, and it wasn't given. When they scored that
rings a bell at home. Yeah.
When they scored that, I wasn't too disheartened because I thought, well, that's not going to be given because he's just speared his man. And who was it that got fouled? You say it was Dominguez?
I thought it was Dominguez. Yeah.
Well, whoever it was, I thought was on track to close him down and put a bit of pressure on Bruno Guimaraes. And I just thought, that would be checked. And I'm sure they seem to try and find anything to overturn a goal these days. So therefore, this won't count. But glossed over, didn't seem to be checked. If it did, I can't recall seeing a VAR replay of it. And that's it, 3-2. And once again, down 3-2.
Yeah, I think on that point, if anybody wants to put a comment on and let us know if we were daydreaming that happening or not, if you also thought it'd be a foul, or if you saw it and thought it wouldn't, I'd be interested to hear other people's opinions on that. Because for me, watching that in the stadium, I kind of went, oh, what game are we playing here? Because it's not American football where you can just tackle people off the ball, is it?
It felt clear to me, but clearly I don't know the rules, so who knows? Interested to hear, interested to hear other people's opinions, whether they thought it was a foul or whether they thought we were possibly overthinking it from a Forest lens.
Yep. And then not straight after, but within kind of 8 minutes or so, we make all three of our changes. A bit of an odd one. So we only made 3 substitutions. We made 3 single substitutions, so we couldn't use all 5. So Reina came off first for Ryan Yates. Then Danilo came on for Nico Dominguez, and then Divock Origi came on for TAIWO Awoniyi. Of all of them, I think I was most surprised by Origi for Awoniyi. Obviously, Nico Dominguez runs himself into the ground. And obviously, it was nice to see Claudio Radio's son, Giovanni Reina, came on, and that meant that Morgan Gibbs-White dropped deep and then played there with Danilo. Because obviously, I was speculating a while back if Nuno would try and find a way of wedging them in, and that appears to be the way, doesn't it?
Apparently, wasn't too impressed by any of it. I think Origi was useless to me. I just think he offered absolutely nothing, and it's frustrating that Chris Wood is currently injured and out for a few weeks, because it felt like between him and TAIWO, we had some attacking intent and another option off the bench. Whereas now, I think we're largely lacking that, and I think I was surprised to see him remain with Forest. I thought it was a good chance for us to say this didn't work out, see you later in the January window, but for some reason not. And I'm guessing maybe it's because we couldn't get anyone in, and potentially with the Chris Wood injury. But I just think it's not great. I know he scored in the cup against Bristol, but not for me. I thought he did not impose himself at all, and neither did Reina. I think he looked smart, but at this point, at this time in the game, I felt that TAIWO was a threat. Like I say, he had the offside, he had the penalty. I thought, keep this guy on for another 10, 15 minutes. He will have an opportunity to score and probably take it. Morgan Gibbs-White was exceptional, and I think retaining him in his place where he does his best work at the 10 would have been the sensible thing to do. Now, we've got to be careful, because if TAIWO gets injured again, it scuppers everything. Because I've just said how Origi's didn't impose himself and isn't the answer. Well, if TAIWO stays on for 10 minutes and gets injured because he's just coming back from injury and we've got to stick with Origi for the rest of the season, then we're in trouble. So I get why it had to be done, but I just felt like maybe we were hamstrung a little bit by that. I think, sorry, Chris Wood. But I think, yeah, it hindered us. It felt like the momentum sort of got cut off a little bit and we weren't quite playing the same way that we were prior to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm wondering maybe about Origi not going back. I'm wondering if there's maybe not a break clause outside, so they needed to be business at AC Milan for him. That maybe what, maybe meditate on that and think about it. And yeah. But yeah, it's a shame Chris Wood's out. He was absolutely flying, wasn't he, when he was playing? So
yeah, we finally got to a point where it looked like we've seen the best of Chris Wood and Towers back. The future's bright. Can we see them both together? If not, don't matter, because one could come off the bench, do a good job. Which one starts? Don't matter anymore. They're both capable. That's what it felt like we were getting to. And then, as is the Forest way, birthday's ruined, cake's on the floor, and everyone's crying. So it's just classic Forest, isn't it? So
I think we will see them both. I think we'll find some kind of 3-5-2 or something like that.
Yeah, good to see him in the stands as well. Disprove the speculation that he's in rehab for doing balloons. So glad to see him there.
Oh dear me. So I mean, for me, this has happened a couple of times now. There was a worrying lack of push in the last 10 minutes. We didn't really create anything at all. But I think overall it was a positive performance. But another 3-2 game in the Premier League loss. This is our 6th this season, and we've lost all 6. JJ is going to tell me there was 3 last season as well, JJ, and we lost all 3 of them as well.
Bournemouth, Fulham, and Liverpool. And the Bournemouth and Fulham ones, we were both 2-0 up in them, I believe. Yeah. And they were back to back. There might be more. I've seen some people online say 11, unconfirmed.
Probably including the Blackpool game in the Cup, aren't they?
But we won that, I guess.
Oh, sorry, you said okay.
And it wasn't in 9 minutes. I think in the Premier League there's been 9 3-2s, and we've been on the losing side of every single one of them.
It's not necessarily the kind of worrying trend of losing 3-2 for me. That the thing for me is if you score 2 goals at home 9 times, you have to win like 7 of those, right?
Yeah, to lose 9 3-2s, there might be a 3-2 that I forget that we did win, but I can't recall it. So someone in the comments, I'm sure, will shout at me if we have. But to score twice 9 times and not come away with anything is crazy. Not even so much as a point. I don't know what it is. Is it a mentality thing? Do you think, Jacob? Is it just bad luck? What is it?
I think it's probably not quite the thing, something that should worry us. I think there has been extenuating circumstances. We also aren't that good. We only got promoted last season. We only survived on the second last game of last season. But yeah, it's just if you're scoring 2 goals at home, you have to be able to grind them out, and I think that's probably what lost Steve Cooper his job in the end, and that's probably been Nuno's downfall so far.
Yeah, I think the same fragilities are still there from Cooper's reign, and I don't think it's particularly Cooper or Nuno's fault. I think the players have a tendency to just completely switch off, which has cost us. So I think it is unfortunate and frustrating to have this happen so many times at a point where we're desperate. We're desperate for points now. Obviously, there's looming points deduction. Other teams around us are starting to pick up points. Obviously, Luton didn't win at the weekend, but Brentford did, and Luton have had a good run. So it's getting worrying. We need to certainly pick up points quick. And I think the frustrating thing is, at the end of this, we played well and we deserve something. So to come away from it with nothing is very frustrating because you can see the positives. You can't be completely disheartened at the performance because I think we did well. We scored a great goal from Elanga. We had some good counter-attacking near misses, so to speak. I think Gibbs-white had a chance in the first half as well that he probably should have scored. We created the chances in the game, so I felt like we should have got something, and I thought we were the better team in open play. But 2 gifts from set pieces, and Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to raise up that Morgan Gibbs-White miss. Actually, that was actually a really good piece of play by Nuno Tavares, wasn't it, down the wing? He got it back, but yeah, I think something's got to change. The positive thing for me is that it was a positive performance. We played well. We ran them. Newcastle are a good team. They had a fantastic season last season in the Champions League this season, which I think was probably a step too far for them. But we did create chances. We did score goals. We just need to cut some of this, I want to say, lack of a better term, nonsense out, which I had thought Nuno would have done. And
still the same players. That's the unfortunate thing.
Yeah, it's still the same players.
I think he's been unlucky with injuries. I think he's been unlucky with AFCON. And I've seen a lot of people say online, what is the difference from Steve Cooper? And I think it's the other side of the pitch. I think it's our attacking intent and to go to a game and try and win it. I'd like to win that game 1-0, not 4-3. But, we're going for teams, we're trying. And I think we look more to have more intent when we go forward. But the fragility at the back, we had the same keeper up until Matt Sells, which, by the way, I didn't say this during the penalty decision, but fantastic ball from Sells to put TAIWO in. You never see that from Matt Turner. But obviously we had the issues with Turner, the defenders being disrupted due to AFCON. So it's not a Steve Cooper thing, and it's not a Nuno thing. I think it's just the way the players are wired at the minute.
Yeah, no, I think.
But there's some good quality in the squad. So I still can't quite see it. I think individually, there's some great quality. It just feels like we just switch off, and you switch off or you make mistakes in this league and you punish for them.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to ask me a question now, aren't you, JJ?
I am, Jacob. Interested to hear your answer, because a few weeks ago I said to you, are Forest staying up this season? And you said, 100%, with the confidence of a man taking his dog to the park where Nuno Tavares isn't there. So, Jacob, I pose to you this question once again. Forest, are they staying up this season? Give me a percentage.
I'm going to say 100%, but I'm going to put a little asterisk on that. And my belief in that is purely because Luton lost to Sheffield United. I think that may have just burst their bubble, and I think there'll be 3 teams worse than us. It's starting to look like we're going to have to rely on other teams' bad form now if we can't get 2 or 3 wins soon. But I still think we're good enough to avoid the drop. I personally don't think we'll get a points deduction. I think we'll have enough of an argument to kind of get like a suspended points deduction or something like that. We only breached for 2 months. I know they are the rules, but we only breached for 2 months. We're not in breach now. I think that's what our argument will be. So I think overall we'll be safe, but there is an asterisk against it now rather than a 100% glasses brimming full.
That does not sound 100% to me, but fair enough if you want to put that number on it. I think the concerning thing for me that you state there is we are starting to rely on other teams' performances and results. So therefore, our fate is not in our own hands, which is a worrying time considering our fate is also potentially in the hands of lawyers, because you can speculate whether we'll get a points deduction or you won't. We don't know yet. It's still looming over us. I'm at a point now where I think if we don't get a points deduction, I think we stay up. If we do get a points deduction and it's 3 points, we might just scrape it. If we get anything over 3, I think we're in severe trouble. So I think it's a very concerning and worrying time to be a Forest fan. Personally, I have not enjoyed this season at all in comparison to last season, and I think we're going through second season syndrome as a club and as a fan base. But I don't think it's been helped by the. We can sing all we want about Forest being magic on and off the pitch, but it feels like we're neither at times. So it's concerning, very concerning. And I think the last few results where I think, you know what, we could have got something from this and ended up getting nothing, and are now relying on teams like Luton to drop points, is a massive concern.
Yeah. I get it. I think my 100% is based on the fact that I think we will stay up. So it's a 100% opinion, if that makes sense. But yeah,
well, I hope you're right. I do hope you're right.
I hope I'm right. I agree, though. I think I had hoped, because of all the signings and everything that went on last season, that was kind of our second season syndrome. We jumped straight to it because of the difficulties we faced. It would appear that I was completely and utterly wrong. We're in this position, but again, I don't think any of the loss or any of the games under Nuno have been. I don't think I've watched them and gone, ugh. I think they've all been all right at very worst. So I think that's where my confidence comes from. We've scored in, I want to say, pretty much every game under Nuno.
Well, every Premier League game, I think obviously Blackpool was 0-0.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. Was it? I can't remember. There was definitely 0-0 in there. Bristol. There you go.
Yeah, I know. I went to it.
I think the main thing about Nuno, which I quite like, is that it never feels like you're out of a game. I think no matter who we play, there is a potential to pick up points, and I think we've got a scalp or two in us over the course of the next few games or next few months. We've got a bit of a difficult block of games coming up. We're just about to talk about West Ham, which is going to be an interesting one given the narrative of what's just happened to them. But Nuno makes us almost feel like he can go anywhere and have a chance. Yep. So, let's hope for more Newcastle and Man United's of December's performance, and hopefully we can pick up a few points. But speaking of which, Jacob, West Ham are our next game. What just happened to them?
They got an absolute trouncing, didn't they, by Arsenal? Was it 6-0 in the end?
6-0.
6-0. Declan Rice scoring wonder goals to rub the salt in the wound. Half the fans were cheering him. Half the fans were giving him V for victory signs and stuff, weren't they? Apparently, all their fans are getting titsed off with David Moyes. I can't help but feel that if we did beat them, that would probably be the end of David Moyes. One of the West Ham owners has died, hasn't he? So I know that's not particularly recently, but I think like the other one is maybe getting a bit jarred off with him. So it's he's starting to lose his footing. I think half the West Ham base is split on him anyway. They don't play the West Ham way.
This is what we're not a West Ham podcast. I don't know too much about them, but I can't help but feel they're a little bit like Man United with when they lose, the green and yellow scarves out and it's Glazers out. When they win, it's we're the best team in the world. And I'm not saying West Ham are quite that degree, but it feels like every few weeks there's a narrative of get Moyes out now, he's poison to this club, to hey, oh, we've just won a European Cup, we're the best, Moyes in. And it feels like it's very on and off and back and forth. I think Moyes has done some great stuff with West Ham. Whether it's his time to wrap it up now, I'm not too sure. It sounds like the fan base has apparently turned largely toxic, and a 6-0 drubbing will do that. But I still think West Ham have a lot about them, and I don't think just because they got beat 6-0, we should go into this game full of confidence, particularly given our set-piece woes at the minute. We're about to come up against one of the best in the game in James Ward-Prowse, so they're a bizarre club for me. They're capable of both sides of the spectrum. Who I don't know who we're going to get this weekend. I certainly hope it's the one that lost 6-0. But yeah, West Ham are a bizarre club. So how do you foresee this going? Do you think it's a great time to play them because the confidence is shot and it's turning toxic and this could be Moyes' last hurrah? Or are you seeing it as bugger, they've just lost 6-0, they've got a point to prove, we're in trouble?
I'm Campay, so I think this is a great time to play them. I'm starting to wonder if Moyes has actually lost the dressing room, which will be the kicker. I think if he's lost the dressing room, we'll win that game comfortably. So I suppose that remains to be seen. But I think that, I mean, their form anyway is pretty patchy. They're not having the best season, JJ. I'm not going to guess where they are in the league. I'm going to double check.
Well researched, Jacob. Well researched.
Yeah. They are. Oh, they're 8th. Why do they want him out? Am I missing something?
Hang on, you're wrong here. They're not 8th. They are 8th.
They're 8th. What else do West Ham want?
Well, they've in the last 5 games they've drawn 3, lost 2. I didn't know they were 8th. They're on 36 points, which you think
same as Newcastle.
They're safe. They're pretty safe, I think. So they're not really in danger of going down. They're actually only 10 points away from 5th, which is a European spot. So I actually thought that West Ham were largely close to us. I thought they were 2 or 3 points above us. I don't know when or where that happened, but there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, so sorry, change my tune. I don't know what West Ham fans are bleating on about. Moyes is doing a great job. Your goal difference is -6, so it's just those 6 goals against Arsenal. Were you ever meant to beat Arsenal title challenges? Probably not. 6-0 doesn't look great, but a loss is a loss, isn't it? I think we'll win. I think I hope. Clearly, obviously, I hope not a loss. I'll take a point. I think in this game because I think it's key. I think a key point is to keep ticking the points over, especially after the Bournemouth game. But yeah, I think Forest will win this 2-0. JJ.
I hope you're right. I think it's one of those where it's if you don't win, don't lose. We really need 3 points, but don't lose. Come on.
Yeah.
I don't want to walk out of this thinking great performance, no points, because that's starting to become quite frustrating. So let's make it a great performance, 3 points. We really have to work on set pieces and training this week. I don't know if we ever have before. It doesn't look like it, but this week is imperative that we do because Ward-Prowse's deliveries, they will target that all day. The same way we looked at Elanga versus Dan Burnham, thought we can get at them there. They'll be looking at James Ward-Prowse and said, here's a DVD, watch that, put a few in, happy days. Yep. So yeah, it's certainly going to be an interesting one. I think given the fact that Forest have conceded a lot of goals recently, West Ham have just conceded 6. It's got 0-0 written all over it possibly, but I think my prediction, if I had to give one, would be 2-0 to Forest, hopefully.
Oh, both said the same thing. Yeah, I mean, you're right about defending set pieces this week in training because James Ward-Prowse corner or free kick into the box is deadlier than Kung Fu in it. So,
yes. Don't know what that means.
It is.
Yes.
Well, if you're listening for the first time, thank you very much for finding us. We really appreciate it. And if you've come back again and 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 again, God knows we love you. You it.